Have you ever seen a log? What is a log? Where do logs even come from? If you look closely at a log, you can see many things happening. A log can be a home to a lot of animals and also plants. This is a book about one log and everything we might find there. The book is called A Log's Life. It was written by Wendy Pfeffer and illustrated by Robin Brickman. We'll read about a lot of plants and animals, and at the end of the book, you'll help me decide if each one was an animal or a plant. We'll put the names in a chart. This book is almost like a story because it takes us through time. It tells us how the log begins and what happens to it as the time passes. Deep in a forest, a great oak tree stands. An oak is one of the biggest and strongest trees. This is kind of a strange picture though, isn't it? I think we might be looking down on the tree. It seems as if we're really high in the air. Look, if we look really close, you can see something right there. It's hard to tell what it is, but I do see a tiny bushy tail. Can you predict what it is? Let's find out on the next page. A family of squirrels lives in a hole in its trunk. A porcupine chews on its branches. A colony of carpenter ants nest under the outer bank. Did you guess squirrels? If so, you were right, because they were squirrels, and that's the first animal we've seen in our tree. A woodpecker pecks at the rough bark, searching for insects. He spears one, devours it, and hunts for more. Do all of the animals live outside of the tree? They don't, do they? All of the bugs and insects get inside of the trunk. Wood-boring beetles burrow under the bark. Whoa, I'm going to stop right there for just a second. That was a lot of bees, wasn't it? I don't mean the bees that fly, I mean the letter B. Listen to me read that again. Wood-boring beetles burrow under the bark. Boring, beetles, burrow, bark. All of those words in that line start with the first sound B, which starts with B. Wood-boring beetles burrow under the bark, chewing wood and leaving tunnels. Water and air seep into the tunnels. Toadstools and other fungi, such as mildew, molds, and mushrooms, sprout in these damp places. Slugs and snails crawl up the tree trunk, into the tunnels, and eat the fungi. There are a lot more things I heard that live in the tree. We'll have to classify them in the end as plants or animals. One stormy day, a strong wind whips through the forest. The old oak bends with every gust. Rain pelts its branches, wind tosses its leaves through the air, lightning flashes and sizzles down its trunk. A thunderous crack startles the porcupine sleeping nearby. The tall oak begins to topple. Squirrels feel the trembling and scramble out of their hole. One strong gust of blustery wind tears the great oak's roots from the ground. The tree crashes down, shaking the forest floor. Branches break, limbs splinter, leaves scatter. I think I can predict something here. Remember that when I predict, I use what I know to figure out what will happen next. So here's what I know. Everything we've read so far has happened on the tree, and now a storm is breaking off some of the tree's branches. I predict that a large branch might fall to the earth and become a log. What do you think? Do you think I'm right? Now it's a giant log. Was my prediction right? Yeah, that was an easy one. There aren't many words on this page, but the picture shows what the new log looks like. Soon the storm stops and the sun comes out. An umbrella of leaves and tangled branches block the sunshine from the forest floor. Can an umbrella be made of leaves? No. Does the author really mean that this is a real umbrella? No. He means that the leaves are keeping the animals safe from the wet rain. The porcupine comes out of its den. Squirrels scamper to see the old hole that was once their home. These animals live in the log while it was still on a branch on the tree. Do you think they'll be able to use the log as their home now? What do you think? Under the log, ants rush about, carrying white bundles of babies. A spider crawls through cracks and crevices, searching for a dry spot to place her egg sac. Millipedes settle between the log and the wet ground. For now, they're safe from a spider. Termites soon discover the fallen log and move in. They not only eat the rotting wood, they lay their eggs there too. So now some new animals have found the log. This is where we're going to stop, and we're going to go back and think about all the plants and animals we've seen so far and decide which ones are plants and which ones are animals. Alright, so here on this page we have all of the plants and animals we'll see in the whole book. Now we stopped in the middle, so we don't have all of these yet. We haven't seen all of them yet, but let's go through the ones we have seen and decide if they're plants or animals. So the first one we saw was a squirrel, right? That little family of squirrels. Is a squirrel a plant or an animal? It's definitely an animal, so I'm going to put it on this side, which is my animal side. See, it starts with an A for animal. All right, now let's look at some more things we've seen. We saw a porcupine on that same page. A porcupine, is it a plant or an animal? Definitely an animal. All right, what about a carpenter ant? Let's find him. Here he is. Okay, these are carpenter ants. Plant or animal? It's an animal. That's right. All right, a woodpecker. Plant or animal? He's an animal too. So far, we've only seen animals, right? All right, what about wood-boring beetle? Where's my beetle? Here he is. He's an animal too. Okay. Now, what about a toadstool? Is that a plant or an animal? It's a plant. This is our first plant we saw. All right, now we're going to look at some mushrooms. Plant or animal? It's a plant. Okay, now let's look at a slug. Plant or an animal? He's an animal, so I'm going to stick him over here. What about a snail? Plant or animal? He's a plant. An animal. Oh my gosh. He's definitely an animal. All right, next up is a spider. Is that a plant or an animal? He's an animal too. A millipede. Plant or animal? He's an animal. And a termite. Plant or animal? He's an animal. All right, those are all that we've seen so far. All right, now you may remember that I told you our story takes us through time. It tells us what happens to the log as time passes. So let's make a list of what's happened to the log so far. So the first thing that happened was that it was a tree, right? And a storm came and blew the branch down, right? So it goes from tree down to a branch, and now it's on the forest floor and it's a log. And that's where we are right now. We started with the tree, branch fell off, and now it's a log. So let's find out what happens next tomorrow.